Good evening, my friends. It is May 5th, 2025, in the evening, around 6 o'clock. And I was just mowing the grass here at the farm. My eyes are full of dust. And I have another musing to share. Today I want to talk about Jesus, Christ, and ascended masters. Okay. First of all, I want to say that if you are preaching or teaching a gospel, do not make the mistake and preach Jesus. Make sure you are preaching Christ. There is a difference. And if you wish to glean any wisdom from the Bible, then you can know that Paul did not preach Jesus, but he preached Christ. And you might be wondering, what is the difference? The difference is that Jesus was a persona, a human man, a human persona that discovered his Christ self. Okay? So Jesus is or was a human being, like every other human being, who was taught by the Buddhist and Taoist teachings in the East, and who experienced Christ consciousness. Christ, on the other hand, is the consciousness of your higher self that at some point in your life you are going to discover through an epiphany. And that's why it says in the scriptures that Christ is the hope of your glory. When Paul and Jesus were teaching Christ, they were teaching the realization of your divine self. Jesus was not teaching Jesus. Jesus was teaching Christ, the I am self, or Christ consciousness. Paul was not teaching and preaching Jesus. Paul was preaching Christ, the I am self-consciousness. So that's why I say, when you teach truth, do not make the mistake and teach about the persona named Jesus. Teach about the Christ, the hope of glory, Christ in you, the hope of glory. It remains a hope until you receive the divine revelation and epiphany that Christ is your eternal self. Now let me tie this into ascended masters. What is an ascended master? An ascended master is someone that has transcended the dimensions of ego persona identity. An ascended master self-realized that they are not merely the ego persona that every human being identifies with and as. To become an ascended master, a soul has to ascend or transcend the third and fourth dimension that is defined by the ego persona. So if you are still identifying with just your human persona, you have not ascended the dimensions. Even people who experience near-death experiences, if they have not ascended the consciousness of their human persona or their ego, they are going to be subconsciously looking and experiencing Jesus on the other side as a guide. What is the difference with a person that has transcended the third and fourth dimension of ego identification? The difference is a person that has ascended ego identification and has come into the self-realization of their eternal consciousness, they do not need guides. In all likelihood, they will not meet guides on the other side, because they transcended their ego, which no longer distinguishes between themselves and Jesus, or the glorified Jesus, right? If your identification is with your ego human persona and your consciousness is still that of your ego persona, and you have not transcended the limitation of that, the third and fourth dimension, you are going to see all kinds of ascended masters, because you yourself are not yet ascended to see and experience the God consciousness as one. This is not a put down, or this is not saying that I am better than you. I'm just explaining the different consciousness levels and transcendence and ascending, and how that works, and why you meet Jesus on the other side, because you have yet to ascend your mere human ego persona identification. And once you do, you will be equal to Jesus, even greater than Jesus. That depends on your personal consciousness level, what you become aware of concerning the mystery of God. So, I hope this is plain enough. I hope this makes sense to you, and gives you an understanding of what an ascended master is. An ascended master has transcended the human 3D and 4D ego persona identity. Right? So for me, for example, because I have the consciousness of God, and I say I am God, and I can say before Jesus was I would qualify as an ascended master, okay? But I don't wear labels, and I don't go about tooting my horn saying, I'm an ascended master, you better listen to me. I don't care about that. So, it's not a badge to wear, it's a consciousness that you become, and your consciousness determines who you are. Okay, so again, to recap, if you're preaching Christ, make sure you're not preaching Jesus and get people dependent on the persona, the human persona known as Jesus, that walked the earth like you and I are walking the earth. Make sure you teach about Christ. Christ as your divine self. I am. that remains a hope of glory until you experience your own epiphany.